Hello everyone, Infamous Jeff here. So I was originally planning to do a 2020 for me a year later video, but when I began to record, it wasn't turning out the way I really wanted it to, so I ended up scrapping the idea and came up with this. My top 10 animes. Super original. I think I want to do a video about anime every year, so last year was 2020 for me, which was a huge pain, and this year it's going to be my top 10 anime. And I also recommend the anime that are on here. If any of them interest you, I highly suggest you go check them out. My list, however, won't include Shonen Jump anime, so animes like Bleach or Jujutsu Kaisen or Naruto, stuff like that, they won't be on this list. And so, with that said,
let's go!
Starting at number 10 is Vivy Fluorite Eyes. The anime aired during spring 2021 and was mainly a diamond in the rough for that season. Basically, it's about a day and age where humanity coexists with robots, and robots suddenly begin massacring the humans. And I mean like, massacring them. And Vivy is sent back to the past to try and stop it. So there is time travel in this, but honestly, it was well put together enough that it didn't get too confusing, nor were there any like huge plot holes like they normally have in time skip or time travel related shows, animes, whatever. And plus the fight scenes were top tier, like super good. I mean, like, look at it. I give it a 9 out of 10 because some of the time skips did have me slightly confused for a while until later in the episode when everything else got cleared up. And also with the ending wasn't super clear as to what happened, but you could sort of piece together what happened. Number 9 is Talentless Nana. So basically the entire plot is revealed within the first episode, so I'm not going to talk about the plot a whole lot because I want to keep that element of surprise for those of you who do end up watching it. So Talentless Nana is in a setting where people are born with talents or powers basically, kind of like My Hero. But the characters are on an island to train their powers so they can fight off the enemies that threaten the world. It does have elements like Death Note, like the whole outsmarting the enemy thing, so it does have like the whole psychological tag on it. So if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, then I highly recommend this anime. I give it an 8 out of 10 because it's 1, not finished, and 2, there were some characters that I believe should have had a bit more of a purpose in the anime. Also, just know my ratings out of 10 are gonna be all over the place. Number 8, I have Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. So this is a slice of life anime where there really isn't a main plot, and it's sort of more of a day-to-day life such thing. I find it to be such an easy anime to enjoy, which is why it's in my top 10 list. Because you don't really need to enjoy the whole slice of life genre where things are taken super seriously and whatnot. I mean, Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is a slice of life comedy genre. Like, it has some nice plot points here and there. It's got some nice backstory that comes along with it here and there as well. And you get to take part in Kobayashi's life lessons. And it's pretty funny as well, all around. And plus, Kyoto Animation is the studio that did the animation for this anime. And if you don't know, Kyoto Animation has some god tier animation, dude. Like, it looks so nice and well done. So for a more chill anime with not too much going on, I give it a 9 out of 10. Number 7 is Servant X Service. This is a rom-com anime, and it's also one of the first few animes that I first watched. The main character is Lucy, technically, who gets a job as a servant worker, which are basically people who work for the government. That's what they call them in Japan, I guess, servant workers. I'm not too sure. I find the main couple to be really wholesome, like watching them throughout the series slowly get together. And the same goes with the side couple as well. It's really nice watching these characters sort of develop a relationship with each other. And this is one of the animes I did read the manga to, and honestly I think the anime did a pretty good job at adapting it and sticking with the manga. But the anime did switch up a couple of chapters and timeline a little bit, which I prefer the way the manga had it sorted out. So for that reason, the anime gets an 8 out of 10 and the manga gets a 9 out of 10. Helicopter! So there are 3 isekais in my top 10 list, and number 6 is Saga of Tanya the Evil, which is an isekai. Isekai animes are either the main character being summoned into another world or being reincarnated into another world. In this case, Saga of Tanya the Evil is a reincarnated anime. Basically, a dude who is very by the book when it comes to rules, in a way gets himself killed and he is reincarnated. Typically, isekai animes are in a world of sword and magic, but in this anime, it's a world of war and magic. So era-wise, it has like a World War look to it. Same with like looking at the guns, the whole trenches and stuff. But it also involves magic, which I think makes it a bit more unique of an isekai anime. And the anime stays interesting because of the god that reincarnates the main character, who ends up basically being the antagonist of the entire anime. So it's kind of like a nice man versus god kind of anime. And the god just basically causes trouble for the main character as she fights in a war throughout the entire series. So I give it a 9 out of 10, and season 2 is coming out, so that's also pretty exciting. Number 5 is Kokoro Connect. I talked about this anime in my 2020 for me video, which by the way, if you guys watched that whole 30 minutes, thank you, and
y'all want anything from the gas station?
So this is a romance slice of life anime with some supernatural stuff on it. So if you watched Bunny Girl Senpai, it's kind of like that kind of stuff, but instead of it involving mainly 2 characters, it involves 5, so a whole group. The supernatural events sort of makes the group closer in terms of friendship, and it also touches on a subject that people can also personally relate to. It's not the best slice of life anime out there, but it's special to me just because it's also one of the first few animes that I've watched. But if you do end up watching it, please watch the OVA. The OVA makes the anime so much more better. And in terms of the manga, in my 2020 for me video, I talked about how I did read the manga for Kokoro Connect, basically saying that the manga was shit compared to the anime, which I did and didn't read the manga. Basically, I couldn't read all the manga chapters with what was offered to me through my phone, so instead I just bought the manga and I'm just going to reread them again. So because of that, I can't really rate the manga, but I do give the anime a 9 out of 10. Number 4 is Konosuba. Konosuba is the second isekai anime on this list. Kazuma, the main character, after embarrassingly dying, gets reincarnated into a world of sword and magic with the goal of defeating the Demon Lord. So it sounds like an adventuring, sometimes, action, sometimes, anime. But it's also mainly a comedy, sometimes.
What were you just watching?
I find Konosuba to be pretty hilarious, and it sticks with the plot, sometimes. And has some nice voice actors as well. There are some lines of improv throughout the anime, but they turn out to be really funny and just generally make the show more enjoyable, and it just kind of proves that the voice actors were generally having a fun time doing their jobs basically. And also recently, they did announce a new anime project for Konosuba is in the works now, so I really hope it ends up being a season 3 and not like an OVA or something, So finger crossed for that, and I give Konosuba a 9 out of 10. Number 3 is Mashoku Tensei. Now we're getting into the top animes on my list, which means I'm going to talk about them a little bit more. So Mashoku Tensei is the third isekai anime on my list, where a Shonen sort of failure in life guy dies and is reincarnated as a baby into a world of sword and magic. So mentally he's an older guy, but physically he's a kid, which kind of sounds pretty disturbing, understandably. The story follows him growing up as he ends up adventuring. It's a very interesting anime because it's a guy trying to give purpose at his second chance of life and not live it like his previous one where all he was just a failure in life, and here he wants to be somebody. I think the world's actually built really well because when there's details mentioned in the background that you don't really normally pay attention to, it ends up coming back and being pretty huge with what's going on, which is something I can really appreciate in any story, because then I'm on the constant lookout for the small details and wait to see if it ends up being important. Animation wise, Studio Burb is doing an amazing job, and Mashoku Tensei just looks great, and you cannot tell me this opening has got to be one of the most fitting openings for an anime. Every time I hear this song, I can only think of the Mashoku Tensei world. So I gave a Mashoku Tensei a 10 out of 10. Number 2 is Love is War. Love is War is a psychological rom-com anime. The whole plot of the anime is to make one another confess to each other first, hence the psychological genre. But the anime is also a comedy, and I mean like a comedy, 100%. Love is War is one of the few animes that genuinely had me laughing really hard. And also because of Best Boy Ishigami, who's gotta be one of the most relatable anime characters out there. The character's backstory and character development is actually very well done, considering the fact that this anime is mainly a comedy. I say that because I feel like most comedy animes don't really go into detail about the characters, and rather just go on about their life and just sort of make it a comedy. So seeing backstory and development is actually really nice in this anime. I actually almost teared up at Ishigami's backstory because it was just that good, and I'm super excited for season 3. I give it a 10 out of 10. And my top anime of this list is Mysterious Girlfriend X. Oh? What's this? You've never heard of Mysterious Girlfriend? Well then, let me tell you all about it. Mysterious Girlfriend is about a guy and a girl who's mysterious. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Basically, after tasting Urabe's drool, Tsubaki becomes lovesick, meaning he gets sick if he doesn't regularly taste Urabe's drool. So because of that, they end up becoming a couple. Which, okay, I get that you might be like, this is your #1 anime? That's weird as fuck, dude. And yes, I agree, but hear me out. In other romance animes, whenever there is conflict between the couple, it usually gets dragged out for at least an episode, which is something I'm not a fan of. While in Mysterious Girlfriend, whenever there is conflict between the two, it gets resolved within the same episode, which is nice because you don't see them acting stubborn about being the one at fault. Instead, they're honest with each other, and adding alongside with the whole drool thing, they can feel what the other person feels when they taste each other's drool, which makes the wholesome moments even more wholesome. I only have one problem with the series, and it's the pace that the couple progresses at. In the anime, the pace they go is reasonable, and by the end of the anime, you can assume that in the manga, they would progress way more, which is false. In the manga, unfortunately, they make literally no progress. 12 volumes later, no progress, and it makes me sad. I didn't even notice the first time I read the manga. The only reason why I noticed is because in the final chapter, the author has sort of a author's note kind of a thing, saying that he originally wanted the two to end up having sex by the time the series ended, which he says somewhere along the way of 10 years of after writing the manga, he had a change of heart and decided to end with them not even kissing. Which upsets me because, like, man, at least end it with them kissing or something. This could have been such a great series if he didn't change his mind. There were also what seemed to be important events that ended up not being important at all, and were basically just never mentioned again, like Urabe's whole ear thing. Like, I don't know how that could have been implemented as something huge later in the story, but you sure made it look like it was going to be important in the story, man. But in the end, after all is said and done, I still enjoyed reading the manga and watching the anime, so I give the anime a 10 out of 10 and the manga a 9 out of 10. So there are my top 10 animes, which I also recommend if any of you are interested. I must say, doing an anime related video once in a while is pretty fun, because I genuinely really like anime and could honestly talk about it for a really long time. So in the future, I hope you guys don't mind where it's all about anime, and if you do mind, well that's
too damn bad!
Hey! I'm going live on Twitch a couple hours after this video has been uploaded. If you want to check me out, want to see me suffer on Genshin Impact trying to 36 star the Spiral Abyss, be sure to tune in. I'm going to try to be an actual consistent streamer. You should come hang out. Watch me suffer. Have a laugh. Come check it out. Check it out. Do it. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you all later.